In this video, we're going over Math 161 final exam review problem, and I have a graph of this function, and they want us to state the domain, range, any relative max or min, and lastly state the interval in which the graph is increasing, decreasing, or constant. So let's start with the domain and range first. So domain is asking for how far does this graph go to the left and how far does it go to the right, and if there's any gaps in between. Okay, so I'm looking at this graph and I'm noticing that the far left of this graph, it starts from -5, but notice that they have an open circle right here. Okay, so when you write the domain starting from -5, we really shouldn't include that -5, so draw a parenthesis instead of a square bracket. Okay, you can still put -5, but by putting a parenthesis in front of -5, you're telling them you're not really including -5. Okay, everything greater than -5. Now let's see, how far does it go to the right? Okay, you notice that there's an arrow pointing up and also to the right, right? So it looks like this graph will never stop to go to the right. So we are going to say that the domain of this graph is from -5 to infinity. Okay, now let's read the range of this graph. Range is about how low does it go and how high does it go up. Now, what's the lowest point of this graph? Okay, how low does it go? Does it go down to negatives at all? No. Does it go to 0? No. Does it go up to 1? No. Does it go up to 2? Oh, yes. So the lowest point of this graph is 2. The lowest y values that this graph will have is 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a bracket and 2, because we definitely have points or like a whole graph section whose y values are 2. So you don't want to put a open circle or you don't want to put a parenthesis in front of 2, because the graph touches the y value of 2. Now, how high does it go up? Now, if you follow the graph to the left, I mean, it looks like it stops at 5, but if you look at the right branch, the right arm, you see it's sticking up forever, right? So that graph is going up forever to the right. So we're going to say the range is from 2 to infinity, but you must have a bracket in front of 2 and parenthesis after the positive infinity. Now, I remember the next part they were asking for was relative minimum or maximum. I don't think we have any. Because look, if you want to have a relative minimum or maximum, and I just sketched something up here. Let me actually sketch a W shape, okay? What if I have a W shape? The relative minimums will be the lowest part of these W shape, okay? So those will be the relative min. And this peak of this valley, okay? Well, not valley, the peak of this mountain, okay? That will be the relative maximum. Now, we don't have any of that here. We don't have any like point where the behavior of the graph changes from decreasing to increasing or increasing to decreasing, okay? Like this point right there, you know, it could have worked, but the point, the graph to the right of it is a constant. So for this graph, well, not unfortunately, they don't have to have relative min or relative maximum, but we're just going to have to tell them, no, this graph doesn't have any relative minimum or relative maximum, okay? All right, now what's the last part? They want us to write the interval where this is increasing or decreasing. Let me do something. I'm going to copy this down so that I can look at it on the same screen. Okay, so I see that the graph is going down first. So I'm going to say this interval from -5 to, what's the y value? The x value, -2. That's where the graph is going down. So I will say this is decreasing on -5 to -2. Now I see a constant flat section right there, okay? This graph is constant on -2 to 3. And after that, we see the graph is going up from left to right. So we're going to say this graph is increasing on 3 and on 3 to positive infinity. So that's how you can, well, you always read it from left to right too, okay? So start from the left. We notice it's going down from -5 to -2. It's flat line, a constant from -2 to 3, and increasing from 3 forever to the right. Now, you must always use the x coordinates when you are writing interval notation. So just block out. Don't even look at the numbers on the y-axis because you will never use those numbers on the y-axis when you are writing intervals for these increasing, decreasing, or constant interval. Okay? All right, so that's it for this example where we had to read domain range. Unfortunately, we didn't have any relative min or max, but we were able to find 3 sections where it was decreasing, constant, or increasing.